all worked up. You know, like
Yeah, no, it's true. It's like that's what I said about my son. He like we running around, come inside, like it's hot here. It's like it's not hot here. You're just all.
I know.
And it's like when I work out and then take a shower, like my body doesn't go off. And
I think it's there's a lot of
weirdo. It's like 40 degrees out.
That's like when I used to go to CrossFit and I would come home and Jorge would say to me, did they choke you? Like, why are you still like red, you know?
Yes, they did.
Yes. They tried to kill me.
I paid for
it. And I paid them for that.
Anytime you're ready.
All right. Please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Well, this is my final meeting as mayor, which is pretty exciting. So I know, I think that's why there's some people here. So, and I know some of you have to leave early. So if you'd like to say something and then get on your way, that's fine with me. So. Cool.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. My name is David Mamora. I'm the county legislator for the great village of Irvington. And this is my 5th time praising the mayor of Irvington, Brian Smith. And like I've said, each time, Brian, I got to know you when you were a Republican village trustee, who I was frantically campaigning against. But I'm thrilled with your mayoralty. I'm thrilled with the village that you're leaving behind, right? When people ask about local government, people say, well, it's kind of hard sometimes to see all the good things that local government does. But one of the things that I would say that stands out from your tenure as mayor is the opening of Matheson Park, right? And I have a 2-year-old son. There was a time where I would go to Matheson Park every day, and I would say, this is such an amazing playground. And it is so amazing that here in Irvington, we have a village government that opened Matheson Park up to everyone, residents and non-residents alike. And as I sit there with my 2-year-old son and watch the other people play, and I ask them, where are you from? Yonkers, Dobbs Ferry, North Castle, right? Rockland County. And I think that these people, these children, are having a good time because of the Irvington Village Board of Trustees and because of Brian Smith. So if there's any legacy that you have, Brian, let it be the legacy of children's laughter. So thank you so much, Brian, thank you so much, Brian, for everything you've done for Irvington. Thank you to your family, in particular to Kira, for letting you do everything that you've done for the village of Irvington. Despite your starting out as a Republican, you will be very, very sorely missed. And I also want to hail my once and future mayor, John Siegel. John, I hope it's not a long time before, I hope I'm not making a speech for you very soon. But thank you so much, Brian.
Thank you. Appreciate you.
And I look forward to the 6th time that I congratulate you as mayor of Irvington. So congratulations, Brian. Thank you.
Appreciate it. I can start the announcements if you like. You said Tom Abenanti's coming?
Tom is coming.
He's out of retirement. I like it.
So he said he's coming, but he also has to go to Mount Pleasant.
Okay.
And then Mary Jane said she was coming.
It's very Tom, actually. He's going to come up behind me like he always does it.
Tom said to me I should ask to have him go early, but
if he comes in, I'll make sure we let him go right away.
And then Mary Jane said she was going to.
Okay, cool. Thank you. I appreciate that. I'll just start with some quick announcements, and I had some thoughts as well. But one is the upcoming ban on gas powered leaf blowers goes into effect on December 16th, 2023. We had a couple checks, or a check over $25,000. I guess 3 actually. One was for A. Borelli Mechanical, labor for the senior center HVAC installations from the capital fund, $118,560. Then we had Techen Vengus Consulting Engineers PLLC, engineering services for the theater HVAC renovation at the capital fund. That was $29,755. And then vendor was Schultz Ford Lincoln. We had 2 F-150 Ford pickup trucks from the capital fund. That was $101,233. So that's just what I wrote. And we actually had kind of late breaking news today. was that we received a grant for $500,000 for the Matheson Park stage. So it was one of those things where that was one of the projects that I really wanted to get off the ground before I left. So to get that news today was kind of ironic. I like to think the state was, working with me on that, but it was a complete coincidence that we found out literally around 4:30 today that we got the grant. So that's great news. That project ended up being a lot more expensive because of Basic Con Ed and having to run more wires. But to get that size grant, it really gets us off the ground. So hopefully that'll be happening in the not too distant future.
Congratulations.
Yeah, and then I did want to have Tom. I know you had to run. Did you want to say something? Yeah. Please, yes. Otherwise, I'm going to speak. So.
Good evening. I understand this is the mayor's last meeting.
Correct.
And I was a little surprised. I thought it would be in January, but with all of the changes over the years as to when the elections are and when people take office, et cetera, I want to come by and wish you a fond, I don't want to say goodbye, just a so long for now, I suppose. I'm thinking back about the relationship we had in government for a long period of time. We kept saying we were going to get together for dinner with our spouses, but we never found the time to do that. Maybe we will have the time now to do that. But I think back to all of the Boy Scout events. I tried to make every Boy Scout event that I could when I was in public office here in Irvington. And of course, everyone I went to, you were there, congratulating the Eagle Scouts on the great job that they had done and what they had done for Irvington. And I tried to make every one of the Memorial Day and Veterans Days events that you held here. And again, you were at every one of them, leading everyone, sometimes in two different events in one day. Then I'm thinking about, I would call you and say, what do you need for Irvington? Or you would call me and say, I need such and such for Irvington. And I'm looking back at the list of what we did together, the Main Street pedestrian walkway, sidewalk improvements and pedestrian access down by the train station, the town hall theater, HVAC system, sidewalk on South Broadway, air purification system over at the library. So we made some significant improvements together for the people of Irvington.
Yeah.
And but most of all, I remember I was able to talk to you and get sound advice on public policy. When you're in office, I served as a town councilman, I served as a county legislator, and then when I went off to Albany, I really felt disconnected because I spent so much time dealing with the big issues in Albany that you'd still need that connection back and say, what's going on in the community? And I really valued the advice that you gave me and the conversations we had. They were very sound, and you were right most of the time. So most of the time. Yeah, that's right. And I also watched as you met with the other mayors. I don't think the public understands what the role, what you get those big bucks for. They don't understand how the mayor is never gets credit for anything, but gets the blame for everything. And you're meeting with other mayors. You're meeting with all kinds of other people, trying to make sure that the people of Irvington are heard and represented and that their concerns are brought forward. And all I could say is I think you did an excellent job doing that. And I think Irvington's going to miss you. I know your replacement is he around here tonight?
Yes.
There he is. There he is. I know he's well seasoned and he will do a great job. But each person brings something different to the job. And I think Irvington's going to miss you. So stay involved.
Absolutely. I'm not going anywhere. So thanks, Tom, and thanks for always being a friend of Irvington, and you were always willing to take those calls when we needed something, and you're always try to figure out a way to help if you could. So even things like Metro North issues or whatever we had, you were always there to hear us and do what you could to help us in Albany and the county before that too. So it's been decades of you helping Irvington. So we appreciate that. Maybe we finally have some time to get together.
We still both have each other's cell phone number.
That's right.
After the holiday season, when things quiet down a little bit, I'm looking forward to having dinner with you and your wife.
Sounds good. Big 2024.
Yes.
Thanks for stopping by.
Okay. Good night, everyone.
Thanks, Tom. That's nice. So I definitely, as I was thinking about my last meeting, you definitely do get a little nostalgic, and I was thinking of you know, all my deputy mayors, you know, 2 of the 3 are here tonight, so that's pretty good. Walter Montgomery and Doc, you know, and then obviously Connie Kehoe, who I think was, I was actually trying to figure it out. I think you all had about the same amount of time. It was, you know, about, you know, 3 or 4 years for each of you. So it was pretty close. And all of you were different, and all of you definitely helped out in many different ways, and that was super important. You know, obviously, as Tom mentioned, you know, my wife hates politics. She doesn't mind volunteering in service, but beyond just going to meetings, she hated the political part of the job, which I always tried to minimize. But, you know, I think after 2016, everything seemed political, and you kind of had to let it known where you stood on every issue about everything, and it became much more challenging. We definitely found restaurants in different towns, so we didn't get bothered as much. But you know, some great restaurants in Sleepy Hollow, I know that. But you know, it was tough on her and my kids. You miss a lot of meetings. One of my kids' favorite memories when I first got on the board, John Siegel, who was mayor at the time, he actually invited us all over for like a lunch to kind of meet each other. And my kids had such a blast running around. They always think like, I think in their mind it's like Narnia, you know, like it's kind of a vague memory, but it was great. So those were fun old days. You know, and you know, some of my more recent colleagues are here tonight. I appreciate you coming up for one last meeting. But you know, you think back of all the different people on the board, and everyone brought different strengths and weaknesses, and I think that's really what made the boards effective. You know, I remember with Mark, I remember with Mark was when he was on that side of the dais, not anymore, but he was always rough, and John probably remembers, and it was always like he had very strong opinions. And I remember when he got on the board, I was like, this is going to be interesting to have him on this side of the dais now. And it was great. He had such an attention to detail, and he had passionate about so many things, and often like his expertise and mine didn't overlap. So he definitely helped round out the board. Janice was always sage advice, very calm. You know, and you know, this board, I haven't known most of you as long as some of the other board members, but you guys definitely bring a passion and a new vision, I think, which is important. You know, Irvington's changed a lot in almost 15 years. And I think you guys represent some of that change, some of the younger families that I always feel like those are the tough ones. Like when I got on the board, I had young kids, so I knew all the young families, but now I'm one of the old guys now. And it happens very quickly. So I'm glad we have, you know, the fresh blood and Larry, new Larry. You know, I think you kind of have that same kind of, you know, blood that, you know, the younger children and things like that. And then the sage advice of Dr. Lonke. And I was also thinking about some highlights, like some of the things that were hard. Sandy was definitely difficult, but I felt like Larry and I were talking all the time and advocating. And we had this poor Con Ed liaison, I think that was actually in this room, and we basically wouldn't let him leave. And we kept getting updates from him and updates from him. We did get, I think, the funniest question of my 15 years on the board was someone actually called me and wanted to know how we decided which streets lost power. And I was like, oh, you mean which ones get restored? And they're like, no. Let's go back all the way. How did you figure out which ones were going to lose power? And I'm like, the storm did that. And they're like, no, it didn't. And it was just like, I was like, okay, he's not going to believe what I say. So that was one of the stranger questions I got over the years. But that to me was really a highlight, dealing with all of that. It was, you know, I think it was like, you know, 7 days or something people had there, 10 days, people didn't have power, but it felt like we were actually doing something to try to fix that situation. And it felt like we were very useful then. It was a little different with COVID when we were just trying to figure everything out. And we had no guidance from the federal government in the beginning, very little from the state. You know, really the county stepped up and filled that void for us, and tried to, you know, disseminate the information they had. And we had those daily meetings and with all the mayors all across the county, all the town supervisors, the boards. Like those meetings were like, that was like a special time to be an elected official, I think, because no one knew what the heck was going on. You know, and I actually think if the federal government had been more open and said, it's a novel coronavirus, we don't really know what's going on. Here's our best thoughts right now. This is going to evolve. It would have been so much better, which is kind of what the county executive said at the time, which is, we don't know what the heck's going on, but we're figuring it out and we're going to work with you on this. And if you have ideas or questions, let us know. And it was just very open, and they felt like all levels of government were actually working together, other than probably the federal, the state, and then the governor kind of created a talk show out of it for himself. But it was a different time. I think the toughest thing we did was when we had the layoffs of some of the DPW workers, because this is Irvington and you knew them, and it wasn't just like, you know, cutting numbers. It was actually people that had stories, and they, someone, if I'm here for 6 more months, I can qualify for this and I can pay for my medicines. And it was like really hard. That was really hard. I think the lowest point for me was when Montanito asked for their second facility in Irvington, which would have been for up to 14 teenage girls, and the residents rallied against that. And they didn't really have a leg to stand on, but Montanito didn't want to open something that they weren't welcome, and in a place they weren't welcome. So I found that very disappointing, because especially some of the things people said about, drug addict teenagers are going to be wandering the streets of Irvington and things. And it was like, we could have helped by now hundreds of young girls with eating disorders that we weren't able to. They had to go somewhere else. So that was probably the low point. The high points to me, probably a lot of the events. I think Rocktoberfest was one. Convincing Joe Archino to let us actually have alcohol in a park, probably just my greatest achievement. But it's worked out well. We've had a blast. We had some great concerts at the Town Hall Theater, some great events at the Town Hall Theater. I think hiring Greg Allen, this was a coup. They don't make them like Greg Allen, and we're really lucky to have him and be able to dedicate that much time. It's similar to like CJ Riley at the Nature Center. I think there's like, maybe 5 people in the world, and we happen to find one that can do that job. And it's similar to Greg to me, because you could have anyone be a theater manager, but someone with that passion and vision and all those types of things. The rec department under Joe's leadership has been unbelievable, providing events. The volunteers at the fire department, unbelievable that they never asked for anything. Every year their budget's the same. Every year we asked them if they need anything else, and they said, nope, we can figure it out. I am looking forward to going back to the fire department. So that's where I started, and that's where I'm going back to. At the police department, the changes in the police department have been dramatic, and I think they've been all for the good. Usually when you have change, it's a mix. I really think with the new leadership and the way they approach things, it's exactly right for Irvington now. I think there was always a mix of kind of people that got it and people that didn't. I really think everyone now gets it. I can tell I don't get complaints. And when I used to get complaints, it was always like 2 or 3 people, and they've all retired. So I think it's a different type of policing, slightly different, still very effective, and they've been great. And the DPW, I don't think anyone gets as many compliments on a DPW that I do. It's a small but mighty crew. It's like the Marine Corps, I guess, in Irvington, where it's such a small group of people that if they weren't all dedicated, it would never work. And I think the kind of perception of government workers as lazy and bureaucrats and things like that, that's the exact opposite. If you want to see how a small group of government employees can work, our DPW would be an example I'd throw up to anybody, because they get everything done. They do whatever's asked of them. They adapt to things that this board asks that are sometimes out of left field. They consider anything, and a lot of it's leadership. They've always had very good leadership, whether it's the foreman or Greg himself, and then so they've been great. The library continues to have so much different programming that's amazing, and then the blocking and tackling every year is a busier year for the library, so people obviously love what they're doing. Now turning to Village Hall, well, first I'll start with the table over there. Mary Ann has been an absolute gem to work with over the years. She can explain the most difficult legal practices, proceedings, laws, whatever it is. She can dumb it down for laymen on this side of the dais, and really get us to understand the intent of it, and then why wording matters sometimes, which is can be subtle and it can be lost. But you tell she was also a professor, because she can explain it so we can understand it, as we're all first year law students. So Mary Ann, has been great working with you, and we've had a lot of interesting things to tackle over the years, and we've done it. Katie's newer, but Brenda and Katie have always run a very tight ship. Always kind of good CPA, accountant, conservatives. Budgeting is always conservative, and we always seem to have kind of happy endings with hey, look, we have a surplus because we hit all of our marks, because we didn't try to artificially make taxes lower or something like that. We've always been super honest, and it's been great. And then Larry is the absolute backbone of everything here. He's the memory of it goes back to the 90s. He knows why we did things, why they didn't work, why they did work. And he's always consistent. Larry never has an off day. It's truly spectacular.
I wish that was true.
At least how we face it with me. But I know how it is after 12 or 15 years of hearing
the same questions over and over again, and having to explain them over and over again because it's a mutable person. But Larry does that every day. He's always reachable. He always has a good attitude. It's just been great. And we've lived this village would not be the same without Larry. And everything I do get credit for, it's usually Larry or one of the other department heads that have actually done it. And then I just do this.
You do get ruined for a lot of things that aren't your fault, but I just tell them it's Larry's fault. So it works out really well. It's been a very good relationship. But I just want to thank, the entire village for, making, this is a huge honor to, kind of the town you grew up in to be the mayor. I always said I'm just more of a caretaker, just kind of get it through, guide it, and don't break anything along the way. I think that was probably true until about 2016. And then we had to break some things to fix some things that, like Matheson Park. Opening up Matheson Park, I can't tell you how many people told me, I can't believe someone who grew up here would destroy the village by opening up Matheson Park. And I think it's been the most unmitigated success ever. There's people there now enjoying a great park, and what more do you want from a park than to have people enjoy it? So it's just one good example. I think the people that tell me they feel very welcome here now, like out of the blue, they say, "Aaron, you the mayor?" And I say, "Yes." And they say, "Well, we moved here just because we read your welcoming statement, and we're going to raise our kids here." And that just to me that's special. That's the nicest thing that I could have kind of heard, someone say, other than David Memora saying that my legacy is children's laughter, which is just phenomenal. I'm gonna have to get a tattoo that says that. But I think my last thing, because I'm running on, and this is pretty much the entire meeting, is I think that the thing I've enjoyed is, 95% of the time we've laughed during our meetings, which I think is so important. We put a lot of time in, we put a lot of effort, a lot of thought, but we don't take ourselves too seriously, I don't think. And, I think that that's the most important skill I've ever had in my life is, taking the job seriously, but not taking myself seriously. And I think we've had a lot of laughs. We've had, and I think we've all kind of created friendships. Almost every single person I've been on the board with, I consider a friend, and which I think is rare. And it didn't matter what political party we were in. We're all just kind of work hard on trying to solve the problems. It's simple or hard. For Irvington, and we did it with a lot of laughs. So I appreciate that from all my colleagues over the years. And with that being said, we can move on to correspondence.
I think you have this.
Yeah, Mondaire's here. Did you come? Did you get a parking ticket or something?
I did not get a parking ticket.
Okay, good.
I'm a little late because there was I wanted to make sure I didn't park somewhere where I would get tickets.
I appreciate that.
Larry.
And have you said what you?
Yes, I'm all done.
You're done?
I told you, tag team. It's your turn to.
I thought that's what you meant. I should get up here and start rapping.
He can do a good beatbox.
I tried to go through it.
Well, I will not take as long as Brian just did, deservedly. It felt like an Academy Award speech, and you deserve that and so much more, my
I'm just glad
friend.
you didn't play me off.
You are just the best mayor and friend that a guy could ever ask for. And I wanted to say that publicly. I remember our first meeting. I thought you hated me because, as you know, you showed up so late. I had to catch you somewhere else after you canceled on me. And what I came to learn is that you're just so busy helping the people of this great village. And I've seen that commitment and that passion from you. I've talked with you often, more than, frankly, most elected officials in what was the 17th Congressional District and what may yet be, again, the 17th Congressional District, God willing. You can tell I didn't put a ton of thought into what I would say because I know you well, and so I figured it would just come from the heart, if you don't mind.
Sure.
You surprised, I think, a lot of people when you supported me early on in my campaign. I'm a Rockland guy by birth, though now a proud Westchester resident, and you haven't always been a Democrat, and you haven't always sort of shared a lot of the views that you have now about the world and how to improve the world, and it just meant so much to me. It meant more to me than most things that happened in that campaign, frankly, that you took a chance on me, not having been from Westchester and not having the support of so many of your contemporaries. in the so-called political establishment in these parts. And I have just always held that close to me and have been grateful to get to know the family. But most of all, as someone who served in Congress at the same time that you continue to serve as mayor, I learned from you. I learned from you what it means to be a good public servant, someone who always puts the best interest of the people he or she represents above personal self-interest. You're obviously not in this role because of the money. You may get to walk away with a pen, yes. And maybe someone will sign a thank you card, and I'll be one of those people. But you're also someone who I've noticed takes in the views of a lot of different people before you make a decision. You are very deliberative, and sometimes that can frustrate people, but I know that it always means that the outcome is an informed outcome, and it's the best possible outcome. And I know that you've shown courage when it came to Matheson Park and so many other things. As I walked through the wrong door to get here today, I recalled those Black Lives Matter rally, shall we say, which are, I guess in 2023 are no longer popular to talk about, but I appreciated what you did in that moment, given what was happening throughout this country. And I think people would not have expected a place like Irvington would have featured hundreds and hundreds of people who may not feel impacted by police misconduct, but who I think followed your lead and the lead of other people on this dais, and in this audience behind me, and knew that it was the right thing to do, and to lead by example and to show empathy. And so those are some of my favorite memories. I won't share the other memories, but just know that we are going to feel your absence, and at least you're going back to the fire department, so you won't
I'll be around.
you won't be too far away, and I'll probably bother you at the house when I want to have a beer.
That's more fun, yeah.
All right, cool. Thank you.
Thank you, thank you. And yeah, I would say, I first met Mondaire after I was supposed to meet him for coffee, and I didn't put it in my calendar. And I happened to get up, I think we were meeting at like 8 o'clock, so we were going out to the farmer's market, and at like 8:15, you called me, and I was sitting at home drinking a cup of coffee, and I was like, should I lie? And I think I just said, I forgot. So I said I didn't put it in my calendar. So we met at the farmer's market, and I didn't know much about you, but the second I talked to you, and I realized how genuine you are, and you were doing what you were doing because it meant so much to you, that I saw a lot of myself in you, that this wasn't about being flashy and being a politician because it's cool and you get to go to the, an award show. It was because, your whole, policy is personal. I think that was the perfect phrase for you, because it really was. You had a unique background, and you turned everything in your background to some kind of force to push you forward. And that's why, to me, it seemed inevitable, and that you were going to do well. And I was just so impressed with you right off the bat that I was like, yeah, if I get skewered for backing this man, I'll go down on that, because it just felt right at the time. So it was one of the easiest things I've ever done. So thank you for coming tonight too. Thank you for saying that. Sure. And I see someone else here that I think might like to speak, or maybe she also has a problem with the village that she's been saving for tonight. Yeah. Senator?
Well, I don't have a problem. And I just, again, wanted to be among those who thank you for your ability to listen over the years, your collegiality, your transparency in many ways. When I first ran, and of course, good evening to all of you. It's good to see you. When I first ran in 2004, I believe you were mayor then. No, actually. No, I knew your wife though. I was okay.
That's fun.
It was. So I think, when did you come in 2000?
2009 was when I first
2009,
Yeah.
okay. So when I first started thinking about running in this broader space, I knew a guy by the name of Matt Lifflander. And Matt, who lived in Irvington, who was really, someone I knew through the arts, was telling me that, Irvington is one of these places, like, nobody cares about politics. Nobody cares about party. Everybody just cares that the, trash is picked up, that things are the way they ought to be. And when I represented, I found that to be true. Irvington, a beautiful, idyllic place where people were very interested and involved, but nobody was trying to shake things up. And of course, during your mayoralty, there were so many issues that would normally, if you weren't prepared to meet the moment, would have upended everything. How the village perceived itself, how it perceived others, how you were able to move forward in this time of flux and change, whether it was LGBTQ plus rights or immigration or Black Lives Matter or COVID or name the or and the or and the or. But you had a steady hand and you found a way to hear all the voices and to modulate the volume so that the moment was met, but met in a way that Irvington was able to receive it. Not everybody is going to receive every message. You didn't have to be the messenger for everything, but you needed to be the facilitator and you needed to be that strong hand. And that's what I found from you. Your leadership, very even keel, very, again, not so much about you, but about how do we make sure that Irvington comes out okay. Irvington is more than okay. I'm so proud to be able to represent the village, and I am certainly sorry, obviously, but I'm looking forward to the new mayor. I'm sorry to see you go, but I know, again, you have other things that you're going to do. And I just want you to know that as your senator, as a leader of the Senate, I was certainly happy to work with you on various projects and to support you and continue to support the village. I wish you the very best.
Thank you.
Things that I didn't say are in here, and I won't read them. But by the way, it's pretty late today, but in New York State, it is still Brian Smith Day. So congratulations.
It's, one of the things I didn't mention that I always thought was one of my favorite things that we did too was renaming the plaza out here, Madam C.J. Walker Plaza. For so long, I felt like, people just weren't aware of that. And it took us about 4 years to get that done. But we got it done. And, that sign out there is just amazing. And I can't imagine anyone walks by and doesn't say either, oh, wow, Madam C.J. Walker, or who is Madam C.J. Walker? Either one is a great thing to say. It has become like Mitch, his band on Halloween played in Madam C.J. Walker Plaza. It really is, kind of the cultural center. We obviously had so many different rallies and celebrations and so many things in that spot. And I always just think that, Madam C.J. Walker would be so happy with that. And that's what I think of every time I'm there, is she would have been, I picked this village because I wanted to go to the place where all the other millionaires were and say, I deserve to be there. And now she's celebrated here all these years later. So, that'll be forever. But that's, that was like one of those really cool things. We didn't get to rename the road. It was actually very nice. William James, actually, who is the attorney for Lawara, actually called and said he wanted to get the road renamed while I was still in office. But I said, John Siegel's not going to drop the ball on that, and I'll be happy to come out of retirement to come to the party. So, but that's another cool thing that we're doing, just to bring some more awareness, to have, an architectural gem and one of the greatest American stories ever told in our own village, that we have to celebrate it. But thank you for always taking our calls. Irvington's not a big place, and you always listen as if we were, a giant city. Our little problems you take very seriously, and you've helped us immensely. We still don't have HVAC in the theater, but it's not.
I don't know why.
It's Larry's fault.
You're not it's not because of you.
But it's not because of you. No, it wasn't.
This is the first I heard.
Yeah, but it's more engineering than, but it wasn't from lack of funds, because you made sure that we were able to do that. And when we have summer programming up there, it's gonna be amazing. So we'll have to make sure that you come back and, we can all wear sweaters in July in the Town Hall Theater. But thanks again for coming out. I know how busy you are as well. So this was super nice. I didn't expect all these guest stars tonight, but it was fun. It was fun. I appreciate it. Should we go into correspondence now, or?
So this just explains, how do you top, Brian being able to just off the top of his head make a speech like that, and certainly I'm not going to be doing that. I made just a couple of notes for myself, and I think if you look back on Brian's years as mayor, I think a great term.
Thanksgiving.
Thank you.
Having Thanksgiving.
Thank you so much, guys. Appreciate it.
Thanks. I think a great term to describe that is credibility. Brian came here, as a volunteer firefighter, came here as a CPA, so we knew that our village budget was going to be in good hands. But really, most of all, he came here as a native of the village, who cared about the village and saw, thought long and hard about what was good about the village and about what needed to be changed about the village. And, he was transparent about how he went about doing that. He really transcended the role of mayor as, more of a spokesperson than even someone who was running the village. I just want to take a second. This card is from everyone in the village, employees, administration.
Wow.
And the board.
Even the unions?
The board will be making a donation to the Abbott House in your honor. And that Larry will be handling that. And as everyone leaves today, they can take a look and see that the clock tower is lit up in green, which, as an aside, I'll remember that Brian and I were the only two people who voted to keep green as the village color when the other trustees voted to change to blue.
Signs, whatever.
So again, thank you from myself. I'm happy to let the board speak as well. I don't want to feel like I'm speaking for everyone, but again, really appreciate everything that you've done, and I know that you'll continue to do for us.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
So, it's a big day. You're moving from mayor to the first name on the list of everyone in the village when we're looking for something to get done. So congratulations on that. I just want to briefly say that I think that the number one quality about Brian, and it was mentioned by Andrea, so I know I'm in good company, is that you're a leader, right? And I want to go back to before I even knew you at all. In 2017, when I was sitting where Mark is sitting right now, and it was when the board was considering to be the first village in New York State to adopt the Attorney General's language on not cooperating with the federal rounding up of undocumented people. And you displayed leadership that day in a way that I have seen carry through once I got to know you as I became more active and then when I ended up on the board. And that, I mean, is not just having the right answer. That seems to be like the easy part, but the way you conducted yourself. And you have a way of stating ethical and moral answers or questions, but usually answers in a way that doesn't seem political, it doesn't seem ideological, it seems straightforward, it seems heartfelt, it seems like what you really believe. And it makes it very hard for anyone to disagree. They might disagree with the words that you say, but you can't believe that it's coming from anywhere other than the right place. And when the board that day voted 5-0 to adopt it, I felt good for the first time in months, because obviously that was a very difficult time for some of us. And that's how I've seen you since I've been on the board. Again, new person on the board, don't know how anything works. It's very overwhelming, and there was always a leader to look to. You always spoke from a place of moral authority in a way that was just so easy for people, not just on the board but outside, to accept. And just also really practical. You always have really good answers for things and stuff, and I always really, really appreciated that. So obviously there were many, many other times that you exhibited leadership, not just that one time in 2017, but I think that was very symbolic for me, for how I found you to be all the way through to 2023. So I don't think we're ever letting you get away. So you're going to be harassed nonstop to do stuff, but enjoy your retirement as a Roman card.
Thank you very much.
If I can say something brief. As a new trustee, I feel, really fortunate that my first year gets to overlap with, your last year, Brian. And, as I've been meeting people doing this, I've met a lot of people that have been part of the village for, going back decades. And I always try to ask them for advice because, it's a hard job and I need all help I can get. And the kind of consistent thing everyone has said is some variation of, you really have to listen. You really have to listen to people and see where they're coming from. And I feel like that's something that I've seen you do so much. I mean, everyone here said some version of that tonight too. But your ability to really kind of listen to people and understand, not just what they're saying, but where they're coming from and what the real issue is, and to really make them feel, seen and heard and understood, because you do, understand them and see where they're coming from. It's just really an amazing thing that's, not easy to do. It's actually really hard to do. And it's been great to see that. And I can see how it's been so helpful to Irvington and the board, and, perfect for your role as mayor. So, thanks for your service. And good luck. And,
Thank you.
Good luck. Good luck out there. I know. Hate going last, but okay.
Well, Ken's gonna go after you.
I know. I mean, now in this board. So I don't know if you remember this, but I think, Brian, the first conversation we had is I don't remember exactly how I got your phone number, but I did. And I wanted to, it was after George Floyd happened, and I called you because I wanted to know how we could have a rally in front of Village Hall. And I just remember, I think you always were a very good partner there in terms of saying you really don't need a permit, but what can we do to help? And that was a really important, I think, turning point for me, because I never really saw myself in government at all, ever. Maybe I'm like Kira, I just was super anti. But I think what I learned in those moments, right, and living here since 2011, was that as residents, there was room for us to make this a place that we were proud of. And I felt like the village was kind of going in that direction. And a lot of that had to do with your leadership. I remember all those discussions about Matheson Park, and I applaud you for endlessly listening over and over and over again. And I think that takes a lot of commitment. And I think it took me a long time to even understand that path, but I think it's a really important path about sort of moving a village and understanding sort of where we're going as a community, and making space for people, for new people, right? So you represent maybe the old, I represent kind of the new. And I think it's making space for that is really, I think, one of the things that you really have done. And I think I see that it inspires people to get involved. And that's an important thing, because this is not an easy job, right? And I think we need more people to kind of get inspired to get involved. And we have to continue to grow. And I think, you exhibited excellent leadership in that sense. And, maybe Mark, I probably was annoying on that side, and maybe you were she's gonna be on this side. But we're not so bad, right? We end up, it's okay to kind of have that give and take. But it's been a pleasure, serving with you. And I'm sure, see you on Riverview Road.
Yeah, I won't be far.
You won't be far.
Thank you.
Yeah, but thank you, because this has been a really good experience. And I think you really have inspired a lot of people, and hopefully people will continue to get involved and see the service that you gave the village and be inspired by that.
Excellent. Well, Ken, you missed my nice speech about how the county stepped in and supported us during COVID when we had nowhere else to turn. And what a great job you guys did, especially, the CE's office. So as the deputy county executive, you were right there. And, that we were saying how those were like dark days, and the only light was coming from White Plains. It wasn't from Albany or from Washington, DC. So I said nice things about you guys when you weren't here.
He can watch the tape.
Yeah, exactly. You can call me out.
They watch that, man.
But if you wanted to say something, I don't want to hold you here, so.
Well, first, thank you, Mayor. And first, I apologize for the delay only because, we're trying to get around. So certainly I
No
want to
worries.
add our voice from the county to all of those folks in the village and everyone else around Westchester that is saluting you for the 13 years as mayor, 2 years as trustee for the village of Irvington and all the things that you did. Thank you for the shout outs for the things that the county did in partnership, but the fact of the matter is that without the kind of leadership you and your colleagues have, it's a partnership, and that's the way the county executive, Latimer, County Executive Latimer really feels about this. That we're in sibling, or we're not big brother, big sister. We're siblings, and we're going to work together and to continue that on. So one, we know that you're not going far, and you're going to continue to be here with the village here in Irvington and everything else in Westchester County. But it's the level of partnership that we were able to have with you that made the difference for the village, for Greenberg, and for everyone else. So again, thank you so much. And we certainly have a proclamation that I don't have with me because the county executive has that in his car, but I will
No
make sure
worries.
to come back
Awesome.
and
Great.
personally deliver it to you. County Executive Latimer is celebrating his 70th birthday this week, and he is not even in the county. So, he said, make sure you go down and say hi to
Well, we
our
appreciate you
friend
stopping by.
Brian. So
Thank you so
again,
much.
we really appreciate you. And again, all the best to you and your family as you go through the next stages, and we'll see what other things happen.
Sounds good. Thanks so much, and have a great Thanksgiving.
Oh, yeah,
Appreciate
happy
you stopping
Thanksgiving
by.
to you and your
All right,
family.
thanks a lot.
I'm gonna sit for a few minutes.
Oh, sure. Anyone at home want to say nice things about me?
No.
I've been saving that one.
It's good.
Excuse me, Brian,
Yes,
are former members of the board?
of course, absolutely. Saying nice, so you're gonna say nice things, you can definitely say things. I don't want you to pick apart some decision I made 8 years ago.
We did not always agree, but it was always interesting and spirited discussion we had about various things. We honored Brian and his wife at Abbott House 3 weeks ago tomorrow night because of the great work and dedication that they've shown in Abbott House. And thank you for the donation, by the way. Much appreciated. I just wanted to say, as somebody who served with Brian, well, first of all, I realized I actually served with 4 mayors, Aaron, Nikki, John, and you. But to emphasize you tonight, as we should, the word politician is seldom used in a positive way, right? It almost always has a pejorative sense. But I would like to say that without politics, without political leaders, we really would not have much of a society. We need political leaders. We need politics, inevitably. To me, Brian represents the best of politics in its best sense, the political leader in its best sense, for the reasons people have said here tonight, because he listens and he's rational, and you can have an honest, spirited discussion with him. And to me, we need more politicians like that. So the word politician does not have a negative connotation. So thank you for all the years of service. I'd also like to point out, perhaps I shouldn't, that Brian and I started out together in this venture as, what's that word? Republican. Yes, we were both that, and somehow that fell by the wayside, probably for good reasons in present times. Anyway, Brian, thank you very much for the
Thank you.
service.
Thanks for all your help over the years. My first mentor and my successor.
I actually wasn't planning on saying anything, but it's hard to resist. First, today, just a little anecdote. Today, I was meeting with Larry, and he said he had to look back at old meeting tapes. And he said to me, when he saw, it was at a time when I was mayor, and he described you as, you look like a kid. And I'm pretty sure that when you step away from the dais, you'll get 10 years back. So get ready, get ready. Look what it did for me.
All right.
I guess the second thing to point out is, as you know, as everybody on this board knows, every time you make a decision, you have the potential to alienate somebody. And that makes it a little hard to get a feel for how the public feels about you sometimes. I think most people feel pretty good about you, but the real test then becomes, how do your colleagues feel about you? And I think you have the respect of everybody who's up here. You saw the people coming through and of the village staff, and you should keep that in mind. You really, from my heart, you've done a great job, and thank you.
Thank you. And thanks for all your help the first time around. And I obviously pledge my assistance the next time.
Yeah, that's right. I'm
Yeah.
you'll return the favor.
Exactly. Whatever you need, John. Yes.
I will really make this very short because everybody's pretty much said it already, but I think if I could summarize the qualities you bring, that people that have brought people here and are revoking the kind of praise you're getting, is that you were completely committed to process. You would sit patiently and let everybody have their say. And if it needed another meeting, or if people needed to get back online and say it again, and then people would go home and we would do our work. But you never cut short the process. Also, I think to every issue that faced this board when I was part of it, you brought moral compass. It was never about you. It was never about what served your wishes or needs. It was about what was the right thing to do. And that really shone forth. And the third quality is a sense of humor. You know, angels can fly because they take themselves lightly. And you never were solemn or serious or somber. You were having fun, and so we did too. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. All right.
One quick thing to say, and I won't be long because I've been telling you what I think for years, so I don't have to say too much now, but it has been a pleasure to work with you all these years. As you know, I've worked with a number of mayors over the years, and certainly you rank right up there with one that I would be happy to take the blame for on things and happy to give you credit for things. So it's been a pleasure. Thank you.
Thanks, Larry. So we get back to correspondence now?
Anytime you're ready.
Perfect.
Are they letters about you?
No, unfortunately not. So we actually only have one, and it's from IVAC. So I didn't know if you guys would rather talk about it, or you want me to read some of it?
Yeah, it's fun.
All right. About 15 months ago, the Board of Directors of Irvington Volunteer Ambulance Corps, IVAC, met with the Mayor of Irvington, Trustee Lonke, and Mr. Schaffler at IVAC's headquarters. We discussed IVAC's role as the principal provider of 911 ambulance service to the residents of the Village of Irvington, and we share with the Village IVAC's financial condition and discuss the principal factors that determine financial solvency. This letter updates IVAC's financial situation. It details revenues and expenses. I think most of this is probably better if you actually follow along with the actual letter itself, but I think if I had to, I think there's actually a summation. I mean, I know we've spoken about this a few times, but I think this is the key is actually the last paragraph. We believe the time has come for the Village of Irvington to provide financial support for IVAC in order to assure uninterrupted ambulance service. Accordingly, we request the opportunity with the Mayor and the Board of Trustees in a work session, discuss a form of financial assistance that is measurable and accountable and meets the objectives of the Village and IVAC. Thank you for your consideration. It's David Graybill, board member, and then copied the secretary, the captain, and the board members and officers of IVAC. My understanding is that the meeting's been set with the new mayor, who will now be gone.
Well, with the full board, yes.
With the full board.
Yeah,
correct.
so
Well,
at the
yes.
December 12th work session.
Right, so that's actually the next work session.
Yeah.
So, yeah, IVAC has been, it's an interesting, I was a member of IVAC from I think 98 to 2002, something like that. And it's always been an interesting thing financially because really it gets donations, obviously, which typically fall way short of what they need. And then they bill for calls, but they kind of soft bill where if you don't pay and your insurance doesn't cover it, they don't follow up because they are nice people. But the way things have been working, my understanding is Dobbs Ferry VAC has not been able to respond to a lot of calls. So IVAC has been able to pick up a lot of those calls and bill more So it's kind of created a short-term solution, but definitely not a long-term solution. So it's not the only VAC to face these issues. In the village, in the Village Officials Committee, which is the 6 villages of Greenberg and North Tarrytown, there's a wide disparity of different, kind of VACs and where they are. Dobbs Ferry, Tarrytown, were almost out of business several times. Ironically, Ardsley was the first one we heard about 9 years ago. They were almost out of business, and now they are flush with cash. So much so that they didn't want Greenberg to help with a kind of a backup ambulance, a second due ambulance, which we all thought was kind of short-sighted. But this is an issue facing a lot of people. Actually, the county is also having a meeting to kind of discuss this countywide, because it's not just an Irvington issue. So hopefully there's going to be help coming, not just from that meeting on the 12th, but maybe from the county, from the state. It's a large issue. Volunteers are hard to come by. It's always been that way, but it's only gotten worse. I think when you look at the fire department, it's not that far behind, maybe a decade or so. And to have a paid fire department is going to be probably equally expensive to a police department, just because of staffing levels and things. So there'll probably be a hybrid for a while in between. But so it's a big issue, and I'm glad that you guys are meeting with the board again. And it's the sticky, weird thing is that IVAC is not a village department. It's a separate entity that serves a vital resource to the village. So it's a very strange kind of hybrid situation. So it's not easy to solve, but I know this board is hopeful to find some solutions, and I know IVAC is too. So I wish you all luck. If I can help, let me know. We'll go to public comment, Larry.
Nothing online.
There's been a lot of public comment.
Yeah, exactly. Anything not about me. If I may. Sure.
Good evening, Mayor Smith, trustees. My name is Lucas Isola. I grew up here in Irvington from '92 to 2004. And now I'm back living in Tarrytown, but in Irvington School District. I have young children here. I'm proud to send one of them to Dow's Lane. And I just wanted to thank you all in advance for considering IVAC's proposal. I've rejoined IVAC recently as a return member. I also served on Irvington Fire Department around the time that you served. And very, very proud to volunteer for my community. And just this month, actually, IVAC responded 3 times to Dow's Lane. And I want to say, as a father, having children in that school district, knowing that a local, deeply caring ambulance corps is serving our community, responding to our residents in need, I think is very special. So again, just wanted to thank you in advance for hearing them out and doing what you can. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. Anybody else? Otherwise, I'll move on to the consent agenda. I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda. If I have a second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Next, I'll make a motion to open a public hearing and consider a local law amending the zoning code to eliminate the 5-year requirement for accessory apartments. So I can have a second. Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Public hearing is now open. Do you want to go over this one, Mary Ann? It's not a lot to this one, but.
Yeah, our code currently has a requirement that an accessory apartment can't be in a part of the building that was just created within the last 5 years. And that was included a long time ago, before there was as much consciousness about creating affordable housing. And also when people were a little bit fearful about, accessory apartments, taking over the area or whatever. It's no longer necessary. It actually would discourage affordable housing. So the suggestion was that requirement come out of the code. So that's what this amendment does. It just removes that requirement.
Then I would also add that the housing committee recommended this change as well.
Right, I'd like to thank the Housing Committee for the work that they've done in terms of researching this, the extra work that's been done for accessory dwelling units, and then again, bringing this to our attention.
And they just weighed in on the short-term rentals, so we should probably talk about that in a future meeting.
Yeah, we'll be on the agenda.
Works out. All right, any comment from the public on this? Otherwise, I'll make a motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Resolved to adopt a local law amending the zoning code to eliminate the 5-year requirement for accessory apartments. I'll make a motion. If I can have a second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Reports of board, standing committees and officers. Trustee liaison reports. Start with you, Larry.
All right, quick update from the building department. The new computer system is almost complete and they anticipate it will be active in January. Fire inspections are being done for submission to the state and applications continue to come in at a feverish pace. An update from the tree preservation committee. They said that the DPW has completed fall street planting and the TPC is looking for new locations for spring 2024 street planting. As well, much of the village street planting is concentrated in the central village area. They also want to keep an eye out for tree deserts in every neighborhood. So if anyone knows an area that's in need of additional street trees, please let them know. The email address is trees@irvingtonny.gov. Also, 2 new tree wells were installed this fall on Upper Main Street and the south side of the street between Grinnell Street and Croton Place. One's a burgundy cherry tree and the other's a crabapple tree. Both are new to Main Street, so they're monitoring the growth and see how they do as street trees. Hopefully they'll continue with new tree wells in Main Street on 2024. That's it, thanks.
Doc.
Tomorrow is the Irvington Senior Citizens Thanksgiving lunch. I believe it starts at 11, might be 11:30.
11:30 usually.
Yeah. As well as home deliveries will be made. That's all.
I had the lucky enough to be able to go to the library board meeting last week, and they've exceeded their pre-COVID for a month for the first time in October. It was back at levels that were the highest since going back for a very, very long time. So it seems like things are really starting to get back to normal there, which is great. They have a bunch of upcoming events. I never like to read them. Just go to the website. And if you haven't signed up, please sign up for the bi-weekly email they send out with all the events going on at the library. So.
Charlotte Binns and the DPTL, they've been meeting with department head, Nikki Coddington of the DPTL, they've been meeting with department head to review the greenhouse gas emission inventory findings and brainstorming mitigation strategies. We're going to hopefully get a report on that in December. The Irvington Green has an event on December 6th with Amy Larkin, the vice chair of the Global Council on Climate Change for the World Economic Forum, author of Environmental Debt and Nature Means Business, and the former director at Greenpeace. The water department, I have a bunch of reports today from everyone. The water department, they're continuing to read meters, they're doing the fall maintenance of the water department facilities, markouts for Con Ed for work throughout the village. They're working on the water department maps and scanning the documents. The leak detection company came out to assist them with the leak survey for Mountain Road for possible leaks. They repaired the water main leak and restored the road in front of 300 Mountain Road. And they just are working on cleaning the Halsey Pond spillway, and then they turned off the water to Matheson Park. The police, I can say that I can do that without reading. The police met their goal for the No Shave November campaign, but they're hoping that people continue to donate so they could exceed their goal. And okay, I'm having a hard time finding Greg Nilsson, but I'm sure everyone knows what great work the DPW continues to do.
Village Administrator's report.
Nothing tonight now that you've announced the Matheson Park stage grant.
Well, that's not like Trump you.
No, you can take full credit.
Village Clerk Treasurer's report.
Just that we have our band sale tomorrow, so our $7.7 million band will get the rates, and hopefully they're not too scary.
It's not Halloween. Village Attorney's report.
Surprise, surprise, I don't have a report, but I am gonna say something. And that's just, I probably, except for Larry, served with Brian more than anybody else here, all the time, we were trustee all the time, we were Mayor. There's so many great qualities about you as a mayor and as a person, but the three things that really stood out to me is what good judgment you have, you know, how well you really grapple with issues and have really good judgment about things. What Janice says, terrific sense of humor. And that's been a pleasure to work with. And then the other thing that's really, really impressed me is how respectful you are of everybody. You know, even in really contentious situations, fortunately, there haven't been many. You're just always respectful. I've never seen you disrespect anybody. I have a lot of admiration for that. You're also a terrific film critic. I'm gonna miss that.
Well,
but,
we can still do that.
We can still talk.
I can send you respectful emails. But yeah, no, I mean, it's funny. I was looking back and like, I used to joke with Joe Archino and I used to joke about, you know, when we're done or whatever. And, you know, there'd be that list of people or whatever. I think there's only one person on my list, which isn't bad after all these years, right? So.
And that person is.
Yeah. You'll know soon. Any additional public comment? Action items, Larry?
Just one, actually.
Oh. Thank you. Thanks a lot. Thanks very much. So for the final time, I'll make a motion to adjourn if I can have a second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right. Thanks, everybody.